is gonna be open.
Yeah, it's probably the same like in Czech Republic, what I heard. Yeah, difficult one.
It's great. So how are your these days with football? Do you practice or do you have a table at home?
I have a table at home. I have a Galando table at home. So far, the last 2 years, I haven't practiced so much. So now I said, okay, I can use this period. It's perfectly for me because I'm normally very intent to my job. So I have not so much time normally to play football. And also in my region, they are not playing so many persons. So most of the time I have one sparring partner, but he's living also 40 minutes away with the car. So most of the time I have to practice alone. But now these days I could use it very useful for me to recover a little bit my game more. For the last 2 years, it was not so good.
Yeah, I didn't see you on the big tournaments last years, so I didn't see you on the World Cup. I guess I know you were playing on WCS Gorlanda.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. I have only played 2 tournaments. That was the national championship in Austria, and there was the Galando World Champion Series. I played, I think, two other small tournaments just for fun because I had time, but they were not really necessary.
But you did very well on WCS on Gorlanda. I think you lost to Frederick or.
Besides singles, it was okay. So this year I won the doubles and I won mixed. And singles, I think I finished 9th place or something like that. But actually, it was the first day, so I was not really surprised without any preparing. You have to get rhythm, and yeah, the other persons played very good. Yeah, and if you don't practice, it's normal. You can't expect anything.
Okay, let's. You started talking about your job and stuff. Tell us like where do you live? Where you came from?
I live in Austria, actually in Wels. It's close to Linz. It's like 30 minutes to Linz and around 1 hour to Salzburg. Usually my business is I'm a software programmer. So the fact is that I'm not only doing realization or development like in other companies. I'm doing both. I do development, realization, and customer support also. So it's a full-time job what I have. It's like really 24/7 almost, and that's the reason why I have not so much time to play football or to come to my hobbies like I did in the past. Yeah. I'm 29 years old. I will become 30 this year. So I will establish another number. Yeah, will be.
Oh, yeah, I know it's hard. It's hard to handle when you get 30. It's my wife turned 30 last year, and it was pretty tough for her.
Yeah, the most persons told me, but somehow I don't want to hear it. To be honest.
Yeah, I understand. So, do you have anything like outside football? But you said you're like working 24/7, but maybe something else.
Yeah, I have hobbies like swimming. Usually during summer, I go to keep a little bit myself in shape. So I like to swim. Sometimes running, which is not doing so often. I played before soccer for 8 years, and I got problems with the feet, so it's not really comfortable for me. That's the reason why I'm not doing this so often. I have a strange hobby for men, probably is cooking.
Why? It's a good hobby.
But I think it is something good in general. So it's something like which to show that you can be independent to other persons. And yeah, that's I have not so many hobbies to be honest, but those I do very common and very often. I try at least.
Okay. Tell us about your path. How did you start playing football? How all this big like journey started?
I started actually as a hobby when I was 5 years old. So it is something already common from my family. My mom and my father also played. and sometimes I was allowed to join them into a pub. There was a football table, and yeah, I was a small little child. I put the chair there, and for sure I wanted to play because yeah, as a child you want to do everything. Um, as I said, then later I got problems when I played soccer, so I started to try other sports. Like I also was trying basketball and yeah, volleyball also because there are some common sports also in Austria. But I never really stopped to play football. But on this period, it still was just a hobby. I made it not so intense. And then when I was 13, we also had a club in my town. And once there came a guy and they said, hey, you can also do this in regional championships. You might have a talent and you should watch it once. So I was going to a tournament with my mom in this period. And yeah, I finished from 60 persons in singles 13th place. With there still was playing old school. I could not shoot any snake. I had no 5 bar, nothing. But yeah, that was the start. I said, okay, I'm gonna buy a table at home at this period from my own saved money, what I had at the period. My mom was not so happy that we had the table at home because it's pretty loud. And in the flat, yeah, we had not so much space. So she was sometimes angry with me. Yeah, and the most of the part, then I started to watch videos, to look what persons are doing, to try that at home. And for me, it was clear to the fact that everything my mom had to pay, and she said that this will be not always possible, that it is running like that. I had to win something. So it was something for me that I have to establish faster my game. And yeah, it was running good. So in 2005, I won junior singles. It was my second tournament, my second biggest tournament. I played one challenger. We have some challenger tour in Austria. They are still played with a friend doubles when we finished in 9th place, I think, 9th or the 13th. And then from 2005, yeah, I started. I went rookie singles, 3rd place also. There I lost against Michael Strauss. He's a elite player in Germany, so it was a little bit unfair, but he played the first time Galando. So that case, yeah. In the past, it was a little bit different with the rules. So
What was your first table? Was it Gerlando?
yeah, with but not the version like we know now. There was still the class plate, and they had not these gummy bumpers. They had the spreading wings outside on the figures, the long one. So it was not really easy to do a wall pass at the beginning, just with the angle with the strange one. Yeah, very slippery, very slippery.
But you like developed good control of after it, I think.
Now I tried once, and I think the last time I played was 2-3 years ago, and yeah, I did pretty well after some short period. It was strange at the beginning, but yeah, it made fun because it was reminding me on my past when I was a child. So yeah, it's something what you do with patience. So I had to smile. Everybody was pissed, but I was more struggling with myself, to be honest.
Cool. Why did you kept playing so for so many years? What do you find about football so fascinating, so great?
No, I think one of the points was that I found something where I'm very good, and always it was always also in the school when I did something, some ball games, doesn't matter if it is volleyball, basketball, soccer, whatever. I was very motivated always. So it's not like now that I say, okay, now of social media, you get easy interrupted. I think now it is in this century, it's for the younger persons, it's very hard. They find fast computer games or something else, which is interesting. They are not so addicted anymore to sport. In my period, it was totally different when I was younger. For us, it was normal when the sun is shining, you go outside and you play with friends, soccer, whatever. I was very addicted always when I was young. But in this case, it was different. It was something like that I said, okay, I can't stop because I my longest practice I can say was what I made was 16 hours in a row.
Oh,
I just didn't eat all day, just water, and yeah, here we
you were
go. So,
practicing alone or at
yeah, alone, 16 hours.
Oh my God! So, but what was behind this hunger, this motivation? You were like motivated to win. You wanted to like be the best.
Yeah, I had a destination for sure. For me, always a destination to reach was to win one Galando World Champion Series singles. This was something dream, and for also to go to World Cup and to play there and to be in the ranking with other good players like Brad, Rob, Billy. That was something what I wanted to establish, and I think yeah, when you are young and you have a dream and you're working hard on it, it will be possible.
Okay, you won first title on WCS, but then you won like I don't know, like 10 titles, so I don't know how many. Why did you kept doing it after you achieved your dream?
Because my mind was that I had the feeling I have to improve something in Austria. I mean, we never have. There was a bad situation. Like we had always good players in Austria, like Dalibor, Anton Skor, Klaslo, there Oliver William. There are a lot of good players, but I wanted to reach something maybe which is writing history, and this was giving me the motivation. I wanted to go to a national championship, register on 5 events, and I wanted to win all of them. And this was the reason why I never stopped. I said, okay, I have talent. I've probably my game is that good that I can win a lot of titles. And I said, okay, now we try what will happen. And the start went pretty fast because I won my first Galando World Champion Series in 2012. And then in 2013, I won already the World Cup the first time. And this was probably the period where I have developed it most. And I was very hungry in this period to win trophies, to reach the goals, and to establish my game for sure. It was maybe also this period where there was the biggest boom in the football scene in Europe.
Right, right. Yeah. What was the most memorable like tournaments? Was it like World Cup when you won it against Benty? What was like the biggest moment?
The biggest moment was probably for me was 2008. I was still 17, and yeah, I won. I was the first person who beat Fred in open singles.
Yeah, I saw this
From
match from
17 from 9. Yeah, I was there still young. I mean, yeah, he raped me in the final so far, but I mean, it was something what nobody could imagine that some person will do that. For sure, then 2012 first World Champion Series on Galando, the final what I won against Rob 2-0 behind, and you win it in the 5th set. Yeah, it was going so fast that sometimes I have problems with my memory, to be honest. Yeah, 2013 also a great year, to be honest, and to win against Benti. Benti is an awesome person. He's a very good connection to him, very friendly person. And then also 2015, the World Cup in Torino was something familiar for me because in this period I had a Italian girlfriend. I was working before 6 months in Italy, so it was something like a home tournament also for me, to be honest. So I had a good feeling, and yeah, beside that, they lost my baggage in Rome, and I had to wait for 1 day, and it was not sure if I reach it or not, if I can play. So I was always calling, and I said, "Call them! I need this. You have to call each 10 minutes. They are lazy."
What you played with Vladimir Jabik like for a long time? How
For the longest time, I played with Vladimir Trabik. I played also, I think, 2 years with Anton Skok. This was my first. It was very strange because I usually was always a better singles player, but my first Galando World Champion Series I won in doubles with Anton Skok. I remember this because he told me in Oberwart this was the place where the tournament has been, and he told me, "Hey Kevin, there I won my first tournament. It was my first world championship title what I won there." And he said it would be great to win it another time. And actually, yeah, this is from where it really started. It was for me first time. I think everybody wanted to do party, and yeah, I went back to the hotel and I said, no, I want to keep it for myself.
Yeah. I can imagine it was like very, very personal thing.
Yeah, I have always, the thing is with me, I've always very separated private life and football life in general. So I have three things is like private life, job life, and football life. Everything is very separated with me. There are only a couple of persons in the football scene which also know me really good as a private person.
Right, you're right. I think it's very common for a lot of players to separate.
Not so much. There are some players that are more open, some are not. It depends on the persons, but I'm very strict usually with things like that.
Yeah. Tell me why what do you find so fascinating about your partners? Why did you succeeded with them, and why did you play with Vladimir for so long time?
With Vladimir, it's very simple. He was a person. I think he won a lot. That's also without me before in this team. He has a great game understanding, and in my period, it's like when you're young, you can learn the technique, but you can't learn really the mental game. It takes really long, and you can understand some situations, but sometimes it's also help to get the other point of view and at least to try it and to figure out maybe this is working better. If it doesn't matter if you do it in the same way like he was saying, but you can establish something from that into your game. And Flado and me, we have been also for a very long time friends. Yeah, and I think it was something I always said, okay, I wanted to play with a friend because I think something like a relationship as a friend will also work better on a table. You need something, a relationship. You need to know sometimes without saying words what the partner will do on a table or for what he is expecting. And this is probably something what made our game so good. Besides that, he's very good defender, to be honest. Maybe not the best scorer, but in the goal defending, very good. With Anton, it was probably the same situation. He was a good defender, also not offensive, so aggressive, but very smart feeding person for the front player. So in that case, yeah, with Anton, after 2 years, we had to separate it because he was not doing anything for football. Yeah, I can understand he was manager before in business, and yeah, you don't have the time.
Right.
And we always had, Anton and me, we always had a little bit more separated life. It was like we were playing, we had good understanding, but we were not really doing private stuff together.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and this year I will play with something new.
Or is it a secret?
No, actually, I think most of the persons heard it already. I will play with Matthias Schöpp.
Cool. Wish you luck.
It will be some younger doubles now.
But you're gonna give your experience, like it's always very
yes, good. I want to try, and he's a very nice guy, and I like what he's doing on the table, and I think he can learn something from me, and I can learn something from him, and he's motivated, and this is something what I like. So
yeah, I hope you're gonna win one more title and go on the table.
I hope so too.
A lot of guys want to know how you're training, what's your training routine, how do you prepare for big tournaments. You already told us you've been playing for like 25 years or 24 years. So yeah, it's like very hard you to remember how you develop the skills, I guess, because you were developing for so many years. But can you recommend, I don't know, tell us like what's your usual habits? For example, you know that there's gonna be World Cup in a month. How you gonna prepare? What you gonna train?
The first step usually is I start to practice my 5 bar. So first of all is usually to get feeling on the table, to recognize how is it working with the ball, with the passes. The fact is on Galando, it's not like, okay, when I play on Tornado and I have learned something, I can probably not touch a table for 6 months and it will work again. But on Galando, it has to be adjusted very fine because the table, Galando table number 1 is not Galando table number 2. So they have different behavior. And so usually I start to practice 5-3. I'm not shooting at the beginning so much. It's more about feeling, getting rhythm for myself. So I start slow, and with the passes, I do easy things, some basic stuff like wall pass, brush pass. And when I start to feel more confident at the table, I start to do more harder stuff. So more combinations. And if I get to feel confident in this situation, then I know, okay, I'm prepared for a tournament. Because the rest is mental stuff for me. I do a little bit also 2-bar because, yeah, if you don't do it very long, you lose feeling for the ball. And I do approximate 2 months for myself. And then in the last month, I practice a little bit with my sparring partner and make like 2 times in a week we meet and we play for 3-4 hours. And the rest is more for me mental. I mean, I've read a book about how you establish in other sport ways some effective routines and stuff like that. But the most is going on in the head. It's like when you say, okay, I drive there and I hope I make 9th place, you will not establish even 9th place from hoping you don't win anything. So I was always this person where I say, okay, you have to do this and this has to be done step by step. And you will stop it when you have reached your own goal. And if you have reached your own goal, you have to at least to bypass it to go to another step.
Okay.
So I have not a detailed description. I mean, I can give a description for beginners for sure, is to get feeling for the ball, to pass it on the 5-bar between the figures, to have a wall pass, to have a brush pass. And then the first thing what I do is to establish these passes faster, because most of the period the persons are passing too slow. Mm-hmm. Especially the ball will be often okay, but the field pass is too slow. They are not sure, or they overrush the situation so that the opponent can see easily, oh, now he is going to pass into the field, and it makes it more easier to block. And then for sure is to get feeling on the 3-bar, to have a good shot. I say the better is to have 2 good shots, because there will come one defender who might block you good with that shot. It doesn't matter if you shoot pin or a snake shot, but you need also to have a second shot.
You mean the like rest, pull shot, for example? Like
pull shot or a pin shot, I think they are the most common ways. And then it's just to work on the defense. But I think the defense part is something which takes the longest. You have to get the most understanding from there. He can play a pass, what he's doing, how does different looks or different things look like, that you can easier establish, okay, now he's coming field pass. It's sometimes hard to understand or to describe. It's better to show it on a table. But yeah, it's always, you have a 50% chance is coming field or is coming wall. I mean, in reality, it's different, but mathematically, it would be like this.
Yeah, so you said that you were like for example, if there is like World Cup in 3 months, you're gonna train for first 2 months alone, right? So you need like practice alone. It's interesting. I thought like it's much more important to play against people. But it's a very interesting point. And like the third month are gonna be more about like practice against your partner.
The problem is with other persons, when other persons, they say, okay, I'm playing games or I practice in general with other persons, they are not really practicing. They are just playing. That's a different. They don't understand really afterwards, that they don't reflect the situation why things like this were happening in that way. When I practice alone, I can focus on my own game and I can get a feeling if I feel confident or not, and I can see, is it working well for me? For sure, you can also use the period to create something else, what you want to do in a tournament. I mean, yeah, you also have to develop the game. That's for sure, because also the other persons are not sleeping. But this is for me something. At first, I have to feel confident for my own, and then I go to my sparring partner, and the fact is, due to the fact that my sparring partner knows me very well, it's sometimes a little bit more difficult, or I have to do uncommon things than usually. And I see if things like that are working for me. If not, then I have still the possibility to come back home and I try something else. This is usually how I do my things, because I mean, at the beginning, probably it's better, yeah, to practice with other persons, because you have to get feeling for defending and things like that. And it makes also more fun to play with other persons. I can understand that. But I think on another level to practice, it makes more sense to do it alone.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I had a question about how to develop your level of control. For example, you have tremendous control on the 5-bar. I mean, a lot of players, they start passing from the back pin very slowly, like to be sure to give a like brush pass on the wall or in the lane. But you can tic tac very fast, so you're very confident in your control on the 5-bar for sure. So like, I was meant to ask you how like to develop this kind of control, but I think you already answered it. Just like travel.
I had an injection in my right hand. So it was infected and I could not use it for, I think, almost 1 week. So I said, okay, but this is no way for me to stop. So I removed my right hand on my back. I moved them back and I said, okay, I just play with the ball beside my fingers on my 5-bar. And I think this is a good way to get feeling on the table for the 5-bar. Doesn't mean that the passes are good, but at least you can see the ball is running correctly for me. You get a feeling, how fast can I do it? This is something what I still do today. After a long period, I say this was working for me in the past, I will do it. And this is somehow there are some routines for me.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of hours, so how many hours a week you need to train to be prepared well before World Cup or World Series?
I mean, now in the period I was playing more, but I think usually I do between 3-4 times in a week, between 3-4 hours. It's different. Sometimes it depends also on my job. Sometimes I can do 3-4 days with 3 hours. Sometimes I say, okay, it's better for me to do it every day for 1.5 or 2 hours. It depends on the situation, how big is the tournament. But in fact, like for World Cup, I would establish something like 3-4 days per week with foosball, and then maybe the rest 2-3 days with fitness.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mix it up. I do not only play foosball, I do also some lifting weights, but not so much weight. It's better when you do it more often. It's better because just the muscles stay in sharpness, and I don't want to get more muscles. So that it was also the reason why I started to do this swimming, because it's the best for the body, and you don't build muscles, you just get your own fitness. And yeah, I think with foosball, the best way is 3-4 hours per day, and then do it 3-4 times.
Okay. I want to ask you something about like all the bars. Let's start off from the 3-bar. So like, big question: what's the like biggest, more important, the more important aspect behind the shooting very good snake or pull shots? Like, what are you gonna recommend for like amateur, semi-pro, or beginners?
The best way, I think, for snake at the beginning is that you at the beginning really establish the sides as fast as possible. They should be that fast that nobody can raise them. Then, because this is the point where you reach it that the defender is getting problems. As long as you can raise the shot, it will be never really dangerous. So this is the first point what you have to reach. There are different kind of methods how you can learn it. Some persons, they say, oh, do something to wipe without the ball and put the ball there and score it. I never made it like this. I always made it with the ball. But I think there is no wrong or correct situation in that way. So how you feel more confident in this way, you should do it. It's up to every person. Then after, I would start to, when you do it from the stand, so stand snake, just with wiping left and right, then I would also start to jump a little bit around, because it gives you more possibilities, and you can also give some fakes. It's something like with the pin shot, it's common that you have to jump, because you have to get sometimes hole open, and this you can also use on the snake shot. With pole shot is very difficult, to be honest, on Galando. The most persons have problems to shoot 90 degrees. They can shoot long, but it's not coming straight, to be honest.
What's the problem?
The problem is that you on Galando need a different technique than on Tornado. On Tornado, it's okay when you just make the side move and you just hit it, the ball will come anyway straight. With Galando, it's not so. You have to something to overcome the ball and come back.
Right.
That's the reason, and it's very hard at the beginning to find out how fast I have to be to overcome the ball, and that it is going straight and not going cross into any angle, because they are happening sometimes really weird situations. But it is practicing. What I did is to start slow, to start with simple holes, and then try to get the simple holes faster with pole shot, and then try harder holes.
Okay. I know a lot of players who like were training at home for like many hours, and they have very good techniques. They can like shoot all the holes and very like long sides. But in the tournaments, they choke and they can't score enough. They always shoot in the opponent's players. So what's how to get from like does good technique to the like very high percentage of scoring? What's the difference here?
I think that if you have learned the technique, it doesn't mean that you are a good player. That's the first point. So maybe you can do, I don't know, pull shot, push shot, everything better than me, but it doesn't mean that you're more successful than me. For sure, it has also to do something with the decidement of your holds in general and your understanding of the game. On the free bar, I know that there are persons which are using types to shoot on the free bar. I'm not this person. I'm not having really a type. I have general something, with my snake shot, that I sometimes like to jump and just shoot to the place where the person is standing right now, and from there I can recognize at least, is he reacting or is he not reacting. So what I try is in general to figure out information what is doing my opponent in his goal. And for sure, after some period, you also have it more simple, because you see some movements and you automatically know, okay, if I score this way, I know it will be a goal in general. If somebody then is blocking you, then you have to think if you continue on this routine with this player or you invest something else. But in general, I think routines are not really good. I know that good players also have routines, but it makes them more. If you find out these routines, it will be more easy to block them. And that's the reason why I don't want to have routines in this case. So I think in this case, everybody has to invest own time to find out what is the better situation, because it depends. Some persons, they say, okay, I'm better with my snake on push side, I'm better with my snake on pull side. I prefer to shoot more middles. Everybody has a little bit of different technique there. And yeah, I think if something is working, then just keep going on with that stuff, what is working. As long sometimes it's going to block you, then you have to change something.
Okay, but for example, if you are playing against the player you don't know, like somebody on the like qualification in the like big tournaments, so how are you gonna like what you're gonna do firstly? So you're gonna just shoot in the hole, you're gonna like read the defense. What's your like default setup for shooting?
Usually I'm not thinking so much at the beginning, to be honest. So I just start to play and I'm not so focused on my own game. I'm just more looking what the opponent is doing. So I say, okay, I prepare the snake shot on my free pawn. I say, okay, if push side is open, I'm just gonna shoot down push side, whatever it comes. And from there, I get the information. So often the fact with me is that I often lose my first set because I'm just trying to figure out all the information of the player. It doesn't matter if it is on a 5-bar, if it is on a 3-bar, or when I have the ball on the 2-bar, how to defend against this player, what he's doing. If I defend in the goal and I'm not moving, is he shooting immediately or does he overthink the situation? And this is after sometimes it's working good also for me. And I say, okay, I don't have to invest any time. I just continue in this way. And sometimes I say, okay, I have to adjust some things. I have to be careful when he's doing that. I have to move the 5-bar into the field because probably this is coming. And this is working in a very good way, usually for me. I mean, sure, it can be changeable during the match, but at least you get the advantage and you will be in lead. This is something, because till he finds out what you're exactly doing, it takes time usually.
Yeah, okay. I had an interesting conversation with Tony like about a year ago, and he told me that he has when he executing a snake shot, he has in his head like 4 types of defense, like random defense. Somebody gonna try to buy him, like to wait in some hole. Then he recognized what type of defense his opponent is using against him, and then he like trying to shoot. Do you have something like that? Like, so when you're reading the defense out of opponent, for example, you see the shuffle, you're gonna just shoot in the side.
Generally, is when somebody is just shuffling defense, for example. Most of the time, I take a lot of time.
You mean to make a decision?
Yes. Maybe already I made my decision, but the fact is, it is costing energy. If you do this for one day, you will be very tired and you will not continue after 3-4 matches. So to do a shuffling defense can be good, yeah, for a couple of balls, but he will not continue all the match like this. Because if he has to shuffle every time 10, 12 seconds, and I could also shoot after 1 second, it will cost a lot of energy. With the statement of Tony, it is not so wrong. You can do it in this way. I mean, I think there are more persons. They do it sometimes also me. It depends on the person. For sure, I have also disadvantage that sometimes I know exactly what players will do, because if you played against them 100 times, you know them well. To Yeah, with the defense, there's something like when you shoot it, you can shoot directly on the hole. You can see if somebody is just watching or showing you the hole and close it, or somebody tries to race you. Yes, this kind of possibilities are existing. Um, but I think this is something to give a general type in situation. I cannot say a player is type A, B, C, or D of this, because maybe after 2 balls he's doing something else. So this brings me to the hard point that I say I always have to think after 2 balls what I scored, what he doing as next. So, and that's not really that I focus on type A, B. You can use this for a couple of balls, but then I think it will not work for a whole tournament to give everyone just, yeah, you're type E, you're type C, you're type D. For some players it will work, but for good players usually it doesn't work because they will recognize it.
Okay, okay. There are a couple of questions from Russian players. One of them is wondering what's the secrets of the successful snake shot on Banzini table.
I'm not shooting snake shot on Bonzini, that's first of all. I'm shooting full
Okay,
shot.
so you don't know.
So I can't give this answer. Probably Yannick Correa would be the correct person for it. I think he has probably the best snake shot for on Bonzini.
But why don't you shoot it? What do you think? What's the problem? Why do you use full shot?
The technique is totally different on Bonzini due to the fact of the weight. You have to use a different technique on Bonzini, and the fact is that I don't want to use the snake shot on Bonzini because I don't want to destroy it on the other tables.
Okay, makes sense.
For me, so I prefer to shoot their pull shot.
Sure. It's also interesting for me why I saw some matches when you were executing pin shots like pretty successfully. I think it was like not very important matches, but I can see that you know how to do it. You know how to do fakes and stuff. So why don't you choose pin shot or pull shot as a main shooting option? Why do you use snake shot?
I think it is more efficient for me. That's the reason. Yeah, and I think my mind was why I started to do things like this that I play pin shot is if you can shoot something, it's also easier to understand how you have to defend it, because you can recognize from this position it's easier to shoot this hole, it's more hard to get on the other side. Is that possible on the table? But for me, pin shot, yeah, is something it makes fun for me, and that's the reason why I did sometimes. But on a real tournament, it's just costing too much energy for me. That's the reason I'm not very, common with things like that. So.
Okay. Another question from our subscribers. Where do you look when you're making a decision? You look on the ball, on the defense, or your players, or just somewhere in between?
Defense. Usually, I look on the defense.
Okay. I just heard a lot of different answers from the top players on this question. Like I heard that somebody looking just on the ball and they can see.
Yeah, there's a little bit mix between, because when you look on the ball, you look in the same direction also, like into the goal, and you can recognize it from a high angle also what he's doing. It depends, I think, but most in general for me, that's looking on the defense.
Okay.
I mean, there are situations, yeah, for sure. You also have to focus on the ball, and also with the snake shot, when you're jumping and things like that, you have to look for a short moment, but you can also recognize what is doing the defense.
Okay. Now let's move to the two-bar. You are famous for a pull shot, and you know how to do, like, as it's called, Billy Papas, like very fast, long square to, like, I know. Like, yeah. So a lot of people are wondering how to develop this kind of snake shot on Garlanda, especially because, as you said, it's a little bit harder than on Leon Hearts or Tornado. So can you give like some like practice routines, maybe training stuff, how to develop this kind of pull shot?
So in general, two-bar is, for me, I decided to set the ball always to a fixed point. And when I look on Galando, you have these lines for the 5-meter field and these lines also for the 16-meter field, like on the soccer field. And I use usually this line for the 16. And this is working pretty good for Galando because it gives you a lot of possibilities, because the type of moving figures around in the field is different than on other tables. And then I think, first of all, should be a short slicing one for the first hole and a long slicing one on the second hole. If you have established these two, they are the most easiest one, because you don't have to bring back the ball
Right.
for the 90-degree. And then I would switch over to 90-degree short. With the long one, it will take the longest time, I can say, because on Tornado, it will probably not change so much. But the fact is, the feeling on Galando to get the distance is very strange feeling, also for me, to be honest. So how I started to do things like this, I was putting the ball there. I said, okay, I set up my figure there, where it's usually standing my ball. Okay. And I just started to just try to get it, hit it straight at first. But this, if you start to do it, it will not immediately work with the ball. But you get a feeling for the distance, how long you have to go with the figure.
Right.
And then I started to do it with the ball. And there's coming the point that you have to bring back the ball. So you have to learn this technique. It's a strange one, and I think on most of the tables not really necessary. Beside on Galando, this is something totally uncommon. But then it's just practicing. I think there is no other way. I also learned in this way, practicing. The only thing what I found out is when you do it with a heavier ball, like with a Tornado ball, it's when you learn it in this way, you will also it will be also possible for you to do it with a different ball, with a lighter one.
Okay. So two things I get from here. So first one is the exercise when you put the ball on the long sides where you're gonna shoot it, and just to practice like to move the road without the ball. And second one, try to do it with a heavy ball, and it's gonna help.
Yeah. So I would not use now the yellow Galando ball what we are playing right now. I would use any Tornado ball at the beginning, because it is much harder to come outside in the long way, because you also have the weight of the ball. And if you establish there in a good way, it will be also no problem to recognize which kind of speed you need for a lighter ball.
Okay. So, but there is also a lot of other options like a push shot, and a lot of players even on Garlanda, like Yannick, for example. On Garlanda, he is executing pin shots from the 2-bar. Why don't you try to use these other options? Why did you stuck with pull shots? What do you think? What's so good about pull shots comparing to other options?
It makes a little bit more the game more creative for me. It's like, I think, if I do pin shot now from the 2-bar, it's like, okay, you always have the ball fixed. I have it fixed on the 3-bar, I have it fixed on the 2-bar, and it is like a more static game. With pull shot, I'm more flexible. I can go with a pull shot over into a pull kick. I can do something fast. I can do something slow. If you probably decide to play pull shot, you should be probably a person who can react good forward and catching balls, because often balls are just flying around. And this is something for me which is working very good, because due to the fact that I'm pretty fast and I'm catching good balls, that's the reason why I just said, okay, this is the perfect way for me. Too static is not, because if it is getting too static for me, I start to feel a little bit falling asleep. So maybe this is the reason why I never have played so much Lehmacher or Ulrich, because it doesn't matter, bang shot or pin shot from almost every road beside the 5-bar. And for me, it's always looking like the same. It's like there's coming the point where just my head say, okay, stand by. I don't want anymore. It's getting boring. But that doesn't mean that it is a bad game or something like that. This is something just my own opinion, and that's the reason why I always played Galando and Tornado, because they are the most exciting tables for me, because you can do pull shot, you can do snake, you can do pin shot, you can, if you want to play pole kick, you can also play pole kick if you're funny. But for me, I think it is working in the best way, and I think for the most persons it does. That's the reason. I think I just learned it because I saw the most persons are playing pole shot. That was the reason, and I figured out that this is working good for me.
Okay. You also were like developing when Frederica was like destroying everybody, like in beginning of the century, and he's trying to pass from 2-bar to the 5-bar, and it was very common in these years. Why didn't you try like to develop this technique? Why didn't you stick with the pull shot from the 2-bar?
I do play 2 to 5 on other tables, like Rosengard is one of the tables where I played on a couple of tournaments 2 to 5 because the table is very sticky and it's not so difficult to catch the ball. I think on Galando is very difficult because the ball is very slippery. So I stay with this routine on the table. On Tornado, yeah, it's working also. You can do 2 to 5, but I just like the more creative way. It's like, I think there are a lot of persons like coming and they start to play foosball and they have a good 5-bar, they have a snake shot on the 3-bar and they play 2 to 5. That's it. But if you destroy the system 2 to 5, then all the game is lost often with these persons. And I don't know, I just liked it more because scoring goals from 2-bar is somehow funny for me.
Yeah, okay. Let's move to the 5-bar. So you're famous for your brush pass. You have like I think it's your default option, as I know, is that your matches. So what's your general like default on the 5-bar when you're executing it? Oh, I can see Garland table behind you, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question here, like, what's like, let's start like in general. What's why do you like brush pass comparing to other passes, and what's in your opinion like the biggest aspects behind the good pass on the Garland in general?
I think with the brush pass, you have the advantage that you can do it on every table. It doesn't matter if you do it on Galando table, Leonhard, Roberto Sport. I think maybe you have to invest more time than when you play this with the ankle and the straight, like other persons do it on the soccer tables in Germany. I know it's very common there, and you get a very good angle on these tables. But on other tables, like on Galando and Roberto Sport, it can be that the ball is getting too slow. Or if you play too fast, you have problems to stop the ball. With brush, it's not the same, because usually with brush into the fields, you can recognize that the ball is often getting some spin. And when it's touching the figure, the ball is normally losing the energy. So it's staying more on the 3-bar. Then with the angled one, yeah, you just put the angled one, but it is not getting a spin, it's just coming straight.
Right.
And that's often then on slippery tables that the ball is jumping too fast away from the figure. I mean, it's an option what you can spray in. I like to spray it in, things like that, because some persons, yeah, when you go down with the ball, and they think, yeah, he's going to play a wall pass out from the brush system. They just wait on the wall, and you just have to let it run down the ball, and you can play the angle one. And it even has not to be fast because they are just standing there and they're not coming anymore away from the ball. But this is the reason why I do it, and it is probably because it's just the most common way. Also, that's the reason. I mean, yeah, there's Tony, also Billy, which they play stick pass on Tornado, for example. But yeah, this is something what you can do on Tornado, but you can't do it, for example, on Galando. You can't play stick pass. It will not work. Maybe you can do it for 1-2 balls. Yeah, in a game, it's working, but not for the whole game. And when you look also then to these players, they play brush system on these tables in Europe.
Right. Tell me how you make a decision where to pass in which option. Is it like usual, like you just try to pass in an open option, or you like try to look what your opponent is doing, trying to fake him?
Normally, I try to look what the opponent is doing. Sometimes, also good option is to decide just to play there where his defending figure is standing. In the case that he will try to show you the hole and to close the other hole. This is working pretty good for the most players. For some of them, you can do it faster. You can do the pass after 3-4 seconds, but others you have to let them work that they gonna remove from that hole. So often is also something, you show me, okay, that I'm blocking your wall pass, and they're really standing there for 5-6 hours. And what I try to do is to force them just to go away from the hole, because I know that if they're gonna remove from this position and I will execute this pass, that they will overthink the situation. Why I was moving, even I know it. And it's something like a mental game, because then he started to criticize himself and not to be so focused anymore on me. This is actually the part where I like it most. It's not about joking or something like else to other person, or that I want to be, Kevin is so bad or something like that. But yeah, it's something like with chess, or it is, if you push the figures to the correct destination and the other one has problems, yeah, then it will be more easy for you.
Cool. Okay. There is a question about fakes. It's also can be useful like in correspondence to the free bar. So when you're when you making a fake, for example, you make decisions that you're gonna go for a fake. Do you make a decision where you're gonna shoot or you're gonna pass before you start in faking, or it's like in the process? So you're like starting like working on the snake shot, for example, and in the process of working, you're making a decision where you're gonna shoot, and the same for the pass.
It's usually in a process, but there are some things also when somebody, it's the same like for me on the 5-5, if somebody is blocking wall and standing there for 5 seconds and doing without doing anything. Can be also the same when you shoot on the free bar, and if somebody say, okay, I'm closing pull side, yeah, then we will see if I jump wants to push side just for a fake, and I come back with a pull, if he's reacting or not. And if he's reacting, I know that he was just standing there, but at least he wanted to raise it. If he keeps standing, then I know, okay, he's moving on with the positions and he really doesn't care what I'm doing on the free bar. So I just have to work for the holes.
Right. Okay, makes sense. About defending on the 5-bar. So let's imagine you like playing against somebody you don't know. So you need to develop something in the game process. So like, what's gonna be your tactic? What are you gonna do?
I do totally uncommon things for myself.
What do you mean? You just try. If I want to be here, I'm gonna be in another place, or what?
If I, for example, somebody has the ball on a 5-bar and I reach the point to, I don't know what to do anymore, because he's playing 15 times another pass and every executed, then I just say, okay, I'm standing on the wall and I'm just not moving my 5-bar, for example. That's some point. But we'll see what is coming out, but because at least I didn't block the last 15 balls. So somehow I have to invest something, or I just also in the goal, I just move around anything without thinking. I'm just doing anything in the goal. Maybe
But if it's not working at all, but for example, if there is like a new game and you just don't know the opponent, what's gonna be your default actions in the defense with the 5-bar?
on my 5-bar is usually at first I try to figure out if he's playing just on my figure or at least to the open hole. That's the first one, what I try out to figure out. After that, I see if he's continuing with this routine, if he's always doing this. And if he's always doing this, it makes the situation for me very simple. So I show him my hole and I always close it after with reaction. So I gonna just switch over to race tactic. If he is not doing this, then you try at least to figure out what he likes to play more. Does he prefer to play it into the field, or does he prefer to play it to the wall? With the most, it is like they prefer to play it to the wall because it's the safer pass in general. So at least you can try to say, okay, I always put pressure with him with a fast defense. At least maybe that he feels unconfident when he's playing into the field and he loses the ball. That could be something else. The other one is also to show him something and to just stand there with the figure. So what I do is just I put on a fake as I would raise him to the wall, but then I come back into the field.
Okay, interesting. Great. Okay, so we covered all the bars, and like a bigger question, like very important for all the players who want to be champion. What's your like routine behind your mentality parts? For example, there is a big question how not to choke during the game. Like myself, I always choke during the game. When I like starting to lose, I can't handle with my emotions very often. So how you do that? What's your
I think the best way is when you lose a game is just to go outside. I'm usually don't talk with persons and just go away for 10 minutes. And in these 10 minutes, try to not to be angry on that you lost. Try to figure out why you lost. Because you can say, okay, I had enough balls and I didn't score enough on my 3-bar. That's the reason why I lost the game. So then I know, okay, I have to investigate time on my 3-bar because that was actually the reason for it. And this is something I think what most persons, they do wrong. They're just angry or disappointed. They come back and they say, yeah, the tournament is over. I finished 7th place and I'm happy. But they are not really, in general, they say, I'm happy. Even they are not really happy, but they are not going to reflect their self correctly. Right. Because if they do it, they are disappointed or are angry. But the fact is, I think the best way is to do it in a correct way is to be also objective with yourself and not with emotions, because it's normal that everybody is doing mistakes sometimes. That's life. We are persons in general. But what you can do is to give a limit to your own mistakes.
Right.
And this will also make your game in general better.
Okay. Kevin, by the way, do you have a little bit more time, like about 15 minutes with us?
Yeah, sure.
Hour? Cool. Awesome. Okay. But what about game process? Very often in the game process, you're starting choking, you're starting gets over with emotions. How you handle with that situation? What can you recommend?
I think the best way is don't show negative stuff if you are angry, but show the positive stuff, which is working good for you.
You mean laugh or laughing or something like that?
If for example, if there's falling in an important situation, a shitty ball, I can say, oh my god, what a fucking goal or whatever in general, or I can think that in my mind. But I could also look just at the opponent and just smile, like I would not care. And in this case, I'm not touchable if I just do it like this, because I'm not doing anything bad. He probably thinks maybe this is meant in a shitty way or something like that, but it's a routine for myself. Even he said, yeah, it's funny how I go like that. I say, yeah, what should I say? Whatever.
So just stay positive all the time.
Yeah, try to at least to be a wall, something like for your opponent. I think this is the best way to describe it. So if they are not really can look in you, or they don't get emotional reaction from you, they have to work with their self. So for me, it is something like the same when somebody want to fight and I'm not reacting on it, it will be boring for him.
Okay. Also talking about mentality, do you have any routine during competition? Some rules, for example, are like to meditate before competition, not to drink coffee, etc. I don't know.
I'm a heavy coffee drinker, so no coffee for me in the morning would be no chance in that case. But usually I start usually approximate on the big tournaments on midday. So I will be normally I'm 1 hour before it starts, sometimes also a little bit more there on the place. I'm talking with persons. I use this time to talk with other persons, because when the game is starting, I'm not anymore so communicative. So because I try to use the time to also to keep a little bit distance from persons, to focus on my game, to watch games, what are other persons doing, what is the body language of persons, how they play, things like this. That's our routines for me. And so normally I come there, I'm 2 hours there, I'm talking there, then I get a little bit with warm up, that the hands are feeling good. Yeah, if you do play 3-4 days, you also their arms are hurting, so sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but when they get warm, the pain will stop. And then the most important is, I think, is to focus on yourself and don't get, because the person, they always be curious, they want to talk with you, but when you talk with them about other things, you're not really focusing anymore on the game.
Okay, right, interesting.
So this is something some people say, you're arrogant in this way, but it is not that I'm arrogant. It's like that I just want to focus on myself, and that's the reason. And I think everybody has different behavior, and I think if something is smart, he will understand the situation.
Okay. Okay, imagine the situation. There is a, I don't know, like very important match, like semi-final, and you lose in 0-2 in sets, and I don't know, like 4 or 2-0, or in the like third set, you like almost lost. But what you gonna do? How you gonna like embrace yourself and go to the win?
I had situation like this. It's something reminding me on my Galando World Champion Series final against Benjamin Wilford, where I was in the 5th set 4-1 behind. But there was always a little bit different situation, because we had other situations like that, and I always said to him, don't be too sure, I still can win a set, even I'm 4-0 behind, trust me. And that it worked for me there was absolutely great, to be honest. But in general, I think my mindset there is, if I'm 2-0 behind and 4-1 behind, I have nothing to lose anymore. So try to make the best situation, try to make it as hard for your opponent. Try to figure out if you can put pressure on him with easy things, like with, okay, if I show him that I'm not so motivated motivated anymore? Does he immediately shoot or not? And things like that you can find out. But I think the best way is just like, don't be disappointed, make the best on your situation. So something like a reset for me is something like a reset. If something this happens, I know, okay, now if I lose, a lot of persons will be happy. For the other one, okay, I know I will go outside, I will overthink the situation. But in this situation, I think the best is be just neutral. Try to make it as hard for the opponent.
Okay.
And some persons, they get scared to win the match. They start to feel pressure. They do strange things what they haven't done before. They start to do mistakes because maybe they're already in their mind. They already have won, which doesn't happen. Sometimes you can still turn it.
Right.
So just don't give up. That's not the option for me.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Can you recommend what situation are the best for the timeouts? Like, when do you usually take timeouts?
3-3 is a good situation.
3-3? Why?
3-3 if you have the ball, because it's important ball. So 3-3 is a good situation. Another one is also when you are 3-2 leading and you have the ball, is also a good situation. And yeah, also on the big points when 4-4, for example, there depends totally on the situations. Most of the time I take timeouts when I have the ball. I don't take it very often when the opponent has the ball, because I think it is better when you give your own the rhythm. If you just disturb the opponent, it's also maybe disturbing your own rhythm. And I think that's the best for me is normally 3-2 leading is for me the best timeout.
Okay. What do you do during timeout? Just breathing and relaxing.
No, it's not the relaxing. I try to figure out if I have the ball on a free bar. I know it's, for example, on 3-2, it's an important ball, because I know when I'm leading 4-2, I know, okay, I have almost won the set and it will be harder. So I say to myself, it's an important ball, and I try to make it as uncomplicated as possible. So sometimes I say, okay, I want to shoot pull side, and I come back to the table and I say, okay, I'm just gonna wait till pull side is open.
Okay.
But it's totally different. It's depending on the opponent. For some are working them. Sometimes I just think about what was he doing in the last 2-3 situations before, and I try to figure out what could be the best strategy for me to shoot on him. Because often it is not so important to score that point. It's more important to figure out then the information, if the step what you are taking is correct.
Okay.
But actually, I think with a lot of players, they say, okay, I decide for one side and I go for this one.
Okay. Makes sense. Talking about different tables, what's your favorite table? I think you already said it's Tornado and Gorlanda. Is it right?
Yeah, it's correct. Yeah.
And what do you think about other tables? Which like going after Gorlanda and Tornado? And can you recommend something about playing on multi-table tournaments and how to like go from one table to another table?
I think the better tables for me to play is Galando, Tornado, Leonhard, to be honest. The tables where I'm not so good, I mean, is Roberto Sport. Even the new Roberto Sport, I have tried it, is better than the old version, to be honest. Yeah, and Bonzini, yeah. What should I say, is something like a bath tube for me, but it's okay. Everybody has different opinion about this. The fact is that on Bonzini I start with pull shot, so it's not so common for me in general on big tournaments. I think the hardest to play is Roberto Sport and Bonzini, because they are totally different for me, because Bonzini with this weight in figures and Roberto Sport. Yeah, everybody says this is Galando close. Yeah, it's Galando close, but anyway, it's different to play. It's not the same feeling. For multi-table to play in general, how I always played multi-table was very funny. And most of the time, when I won the coin flip, I even decided for the other table and not for my home table. The reason for it is that at the beginning you have time, like 2 minutes, to prepare on the table. So I could investigate time to get a feeling for the table. And I know after the switch of that, after 30 seconds, it will be much easier for me. Doesn't matter from which table to go back on Galando.
Right.
And he will have more struggle just with preparing 30 seconds on my table.
Right.
And that's some tactical point. For playing, I think the most important is, I mean, in general, the situation of multi-table is, yeah, you have to win a set on the other's table. And I think as better you are prepared on the other's table, as more easy it is. And if he's already losing the first set, because the first set is often something like that, both players try to figure out what the opponent is doing. So to start on the first set on the other table is not something that bad, because you will get possibilities to score goal. And it gives information. To come back on the other table, on my own home table, it's more easy for me because I know already what he's doing.
Right.
And this was always the tactic. Sometimes I switched it and I started on my own table because, for example, with Benji, I know that he could also play Galando, and it makes no sense to start on Boncini for me. That's the reason why I started on Galando. But with others, they are not so common to my table. I prefer to start on the other one.
Right. Makes sense. Like in the end, for our beginners, can you recommend, I don't know, like 5 best exercises to increase control, or I don't know, maybe passing, when they have like some time at home with their home table?
One of the best exercises is probably if you invite persons to play two-ball. Two-ball is a great exercise to get feeling for the table, to get reaction, to see what is going on the table. Is the ball jumping? Where is it flying? And it is something I think if you can play good two-ball, it will also help later in the game, because you need a lot of feeling. You're not allowed really to stop the ball or to play pin shots or something, and play really only old school. So pull shot, push kick, slingshot, whatever you like. I think this is something. The other one is sometimes just try to play only with your left hand without your right hand. It is in general the same exercise what I'm doing to get my ball feeling on the 5-bar, that I just move my right hand on my back and I just play. And I think the best other practice is just passing 5 to 3. This is what I spent the most time in general.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kevin. We are like here in Russia, in our Russian Federation, trying to make kicker football like great. And we are trying like to, one of the initiatives that we want to try is like to get more international players for our Master Series, for our Pro Tour. So we play on Garlanda in Russia. We actually try to switch on Leonhard, but I think for the next couple of years we're gonna still play on Garlanda a lot. So we're gonna be happy to see you on our Master Series. We can give you some discount on the fees for this interview. And yeah, so
yeah, I think we just talk about it at the moment. I think because of COVID-19, nobody knows exactly how it will resume in the future or how it will be. I think probably in Austria. I hope football will be back, I think in September, not before. It's actually not sure, but I think that's only my point of view in general, that it will be possible in September, maybe August. Yeah, it would be great once to come to Russia to look for you guys. Maybe we can then have a little bit more conversation about that and more directly on the table to make it more understandable. I think it is very hard sometimes to understand on just based theoretical stuff. I know that there have been players also already from Austria in Russia. Bernhard Gauss was already.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, he enjoyed it a lot. The persons have been very friendly and it was great experience. I have been already in the East in Latvia, in Riga. I was there for a tournament, but yeah, would be also nice once. I think St. Petersburg is a great city.
Yeah.
Great to watch. I love sightseeing, so why not? Could be a possibility.
Yeah, I gonna write to you as soon as we gonna know something about our COVID situation in Russia. So we're gonna know when we can launch a new Master Series.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kevin. It was very interesting. I think a lot of people gonna appreciate it.
I hope I could help you. I know it's a little bit hard sometimes also for me to make it understandable for persons, because it's not, I think it is not considered to the language barrier or something like that. It's just like sometimes it's hard to describe what is going on in your head. Thank you for your time in general. Thank you for the interview.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Liked it, and we talk soon.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye bye.